Welcome to the DFO Rundown podcast with Frank Saravalli and Jason Greger on dailyfaceoff.com. Delivered by DoorDash.
Welcome to episode 60. Whew, we made it. On the DFO Rundown, I'm Jason Greger alongside Frank Saravalli, coming to you live once again from the woodjerseys.com studio. Frank has the Toronto one that you'll see right in front of him. I've got the Boston jersey. We're going to actually have some new ones coming up very soon because they are now, you got the Seattle one we know. They've just got an Edmonton one made, and they've got many others coming. They're going to have all 32 teams likely right by the start of the season. They got a brand new manufacturing plant. It's going to be awesome. So it's a great gift for yourself, for someone else. If you're a hockey fan, it looks awesome in the fan cave. So check it out, woodjerseys.com. And Frank, just so everybody knows, we're recording this before the long weekend. Right? Comes out, it's Monday that you're watching this now, but we recorded before the long weekend in case anything big breaks. We don't know the result yet of the Kotkaniemi offer sheet, so we won't know the answer. So we'll talk about that in the next episode when it's live. But what we do know, Frank, is the NHL and the NHLPA, and you alluded to this a little bit in your Daily Face-Off article a while ago, but now it's come out even more in depth about just how serious they are. And if you're an unvaccinated NHL player, you know, your limitations of where you can go on the road and, you know, what will happen if you get sick and you're going to essentially lose pay. And if you can't cross the border based on state or provincial reasons, you're just going to lose your paycheck, or not your pay. You're going to lose the days on the roster. It's a pretty significant decision here by the NHL and the NHLPA.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to explain it, Jason, is vaccinated players and unvaccinated players are going to be treated very differently. And it's not just the pay, it's not just the travel, it's also the daily cadence of your NHL life. Unvaccinated players are going to be tested every single day. When they're on the road, if they can actually travel due to state and border restrictions, they're not basically allowed to leave their hotel room. They're not allowed to have any visitors in their room. They're not allowed to go out for dinner. They're not even allowed to go pick up dinner in a place that's an indoor setting. So it's very stringent, and this is a big step from the NHL and the NHLPA to set a path moving forward. And I can tell you, in conversation with a couple GMs just in the hours since these protocols first came out and were posted, I talked to one GM who has his team fully 100% vaccinated, and he's saying, I've got a leg up this season. How good is that? I'm excited that, you know, there's going to be other teams out there that have a couple players, and we don't know what the numbers are yet. I'd imagine it's probably a generally small percentage, but there's probably going to be 1-2 players on some teams, maybe more, that have decided to not get vaccinated, their choice, and they're going to have to be prepared to live with the consequences. And the pay is significant. For those of you who don't know, the NHL season is typically broken down into 186 days. And so you take, you know, whatever it is that you make, 3 million, 7 million, and you divide it by 186. And for every day that you cannot play because you're unvaccinated and you either can't travel or you're subject to some other protocol or issue that's keeping you out, you're losing that full day of pay. So that can really start to add up in a hurry and can really put a dent in your wallet. So there's a financial incentive to get vaccinated. And so this is sort of where the NHL is drawing the line, saying we're not forcing you to get vaccinated, but essentially we are if you want to have a better quality and convenience in your season.
Well, here's, because I looked the number up earlier. So I just used 5 million. It's a round number. So let's say you're a $5 million player. Every day that you can't play, or because if you're on a 5-game road trip, let's say across to 3 games, whatever it is, and that's over the span of 6 days, it's $27,027 per day that you're losing. Well, that adds up pretty quickly. All of a sudden, you know, you're 6 days, 5 days, now you're up over 160 grand, right?
Isn't it amazing to just like, it still blows my mind, and I do these calculations all the time because the cap is broken down by day, that someone makes 27 grand a day. Like, it's like,
yeah, like, you know, it is crazy for them, and, you know, and good for them. But I think, you know, this, and I think it's smart by the NHL and the NHLPA to announce this so early in September. So any players who were sitting on the fence, all of a sudden they see it and they're like, oh, there's going to be some severe consequences to my decision here. You know what? I'm going to go get the first shot now. Then I can wait another 3 weeks or a month and get the other shot before the beginning of the season, and away I go. So now we should point out.
Wait, it also affects the team because
yes.
any day that you can't play, your team is worse off. So
yes.
That's the other sort of unspoken part of it as well, that your teammates and your staff are counting on you.
Oh, 100%. Now, we should point out that there are some exceptions, right? If somebody has a legit medical reason or religious reasons, now they would have to prove that as to why they can't take it. Those players will be exempt from the fines, but they won't be exempt from the rules, Frank, as far as staying in your room on the road. And I think that's a big one because, I talked to so many players last year. The biggest challenge they felt was it was tough at times to have a real lack of cohesiveness. When you grow up in the hockey, from the age of 10 or 12, being in the dressing room is like some of the best times. Right? It's why most men and women play men's league or adult league now, is to hang out in the room. The hockey is secondary because just that camaraderie is so fun. Well, now you're on the road and you've got, 8 of your good teammates that are going out for dinner here and another 6 are there. And you're like, oh, hey guys, can you bring me some back? Like, that's not going to go over very well. And I think some players, it's going to really negatively impact them. And I think maybe one road trip or one night like that or two, and all of a sudden it might change their thinking. So I'm kind of curious to see.
I doubt it. I don't think that's the case. I would think that someone that is that steadfast in their belief to this point, the vaccine having been available for so long and they've held out to this point, they're probably going to continue to hold off. I mean, look at, Carson Wentz, the quarterback from the Indianapolis Colts, just this week had to miss time due to the COVID protocol, and he's unvaccinated. And he came out again today, even with the same sort of idea that the NHL has now put on paper, the NFL has had already. And he's still saying, look, I'm not doing it. It's my choice, and I'm just not getting vaccinated. And so, that's the choice that some of these guys are going to make, and they're going to have to live with it. But, there's going to be more than a handful, over 700 players that don't get vaccinated. And so just be prepared to hear that and know that. And just wanted to point out too, just from the protocol perspective, and we have been talking about this behind the scenes from a media perspective, since some people are curious, locker rooms, the plan at this moment is to open locker rooms to media that are fully vaccinated and wearing a mask. So a little bit of a back to normal. We had, your nephew on last week or 2 weeks ago to talk about it was our first in-person NHL player interview in almost 2 calendar years. Crazy to think for hockey media that we haven't had the ability to do that, but I think all of us are looking forward to getting back in and telling some really good stories.
Yeah, I think it benefits everybody overall. I know some of the players will joke. Some really like it, others, and that's fine. Some players just aren't going to be, they don't like dealing with the media, and that's totally fine. I've never held that against them. I kind of don't really bug those guys too much. If it's something they're not comfortable with, you're not going to get a great answer anyway. And I also talked to some who felt like, like it just, when it comes to stories of the game, you don't learn as much little tidbits of information. And fans, like, all you got to do is look at the F1 series, Frank, to understand fans have a thirst to know as much as they can about their favorite player, right? Simple as what's their favorite dish, what's their favorite song today, whatever it is, that's what they want, right? There's a reason the PGA now is going to go and do the same thing for their tour. And when the NHL had, the road to the outdoor game, I can't remember the name of the show. I remember my wife, who's not a big hockey fan, she became a huge John Tortorella fan, and she followed him. Like, she's like, oh, hey, where's he coaching this year? Simply because she liked his personality. He was kind of funny. He was a little gruff and angry at times. You know how Torts can be. And then some days he's really like, I've always got along with John great. But I was just like, wow, these sports leagues, if they really want to grow their game, the diehard fans, they're watching come hell or high water. It doesn't matter. Their team could be terrible, and they're still watching the majority of the time. But if you want to grow your fan base, you need to think off of the ice. And I think the NHL still struggles with that a little bit. And so even getting back in this case, telling some stories, I think that's a benefit for the whole league, because coming out of a pandemic, you'd want to try to reel back in some of the people that maybe lost interest.
And look, I think from a media perspective, like the last thing, a sports fan wants to hear as a sports writer complaining. And I think we've done a decent job of keeping that, sort of close to the vest in terms of, our inability to really get in and do our job, knowing that the pandemic has been here. But it's really, I got to tell you, it's been really difficult for a lot of media members to really, dig in and do the job. Given the environment and what's been going on, everything's on a Zoom call. That's the only way you're communicating with people. There's no banter. There's no back and forth. If you're new, there's no getting to know someone in your locker room. And so that chance, and I got to tell you the other part too, just from a media perspective, can't tell you how many players that mentioned to me in conversation over the last year and change that they felt like they were playing in the minors again, because they're so used to game being over, get your skates off, get your equipment off, and all of a sudden the media are popping in to do this or that. They said it felt like, being in the minors somewhere in some small town where there's no one there, no one asking questions, no one around, and then you're being sort of shuttled to this Zoom room to do a sterile interview. Just hasn't been the same for anyone. And so I can't wait to get back in there.
Yeah. Also, very few fans in the building for the most part. That was brutal for everybody, for the fans specifically. And it's going to be one thing. You see a lot of teams having their protocols for fans to be vaccinated or proof of negative. So I think it's something that will benefit the league to have the fans back in, no question. I think the first few games this season, I know there were some buildings that had fans late last year, but not many. And I think the players, the first month of this season, I think we're going to see a lot of juice on the ice, just because they'll be fired up to be back in front of full crowds. And I would expect the fans to be pretty loud. So very much look forward to that. Let's bring in producer Ty for Buy or Sell.
Yes, Buy or Sell is brought to you by Roasty Coffee and Roasty.ca. Whether you want it wholesale, whether you want it shipped to you, Roasty Coffee can handle all of that, and it is fantastic. Usually I have my mug, but it's dirty because I was drinking coffee out of it this morning. Let's get into your 5 buy or sell questions. Kicking things off, we will not see another offer sheet this offseason. Frank, you buying or selling?
Buying. I think we usually get, one every 3-4 years. And this Kotkaniemi one sort of came out of the blue. I know the Carolina Hurricanes had tried for a little while to trade for him unsuccessfully. And so they took this path, and I love the savagery and the revenge that came with all the little details in the offer sheet. But I think it was also another reminder, unfortunately, with the revenge factor, why we don't see them that often.
I will say this about that offer sheet. I liked it because it's one that it forces Montreal to make a really tough decision, because if they match, now they can't trade him for a year, and they automatically then either they can agree to sign a newer contract or they got to qualify him at 6.1 mil. That's a big risk. Otherwise he walks and then they end up getting nothing and they just paid him for 6. So I will say this, because when Montreal offered Aho, I thought that was like a favor to Carolina. Carolina's like, oh yeah, sure, we'll sign our best player to this contract because no one even thinks it's a bad contract. So I like that this was one where, to me, the whole point of an offer sheet is that it wins and you get the player. So I think they had a good chance to do it, but I will buy. There's not going to be another offer sheet. I don't see. There's some good players like Kaprizov and Hughes and Tkachuk and all these guys, but I just don't see another team doing it right now.
Last week, we got the Joel Farabee contract in Philadelphia, and I think I know what one of your takes is going to be on this one. I'm going to go ahead and say $5 million a year for a guy who's barely played 100 games in the NHL is an overpay. Jason, you buying or selling?
That's a good question, man. Here's the thing. I didn't get to see Farabee a lot last year. Talking to scouts, they really like him. So $5 million, it's a risk for sure, but I think it's a risk that comes with some reward, because if he becomes as productive as, if he just continues to produce, that's pretty good production for $5 million. So I'll say it's a low risk.
I'm going to sell, and I'm going to say it's no risk.
Ooh.
Joel Farabee is a player, 20 goals in 55 games last year. I'm just doing the math. He led the team, by the way. So 20 goals in 55 games is
like 27 or 28?
30 goal pace, 29.8 goals over an 82 game season. I say Joel Farabee hits 30 goals and gets 70 points this year.
Whew.
And
Whoa.
I think, and he plays in all situations. And I think that becomes a bargain in a long line of bargains for the Flyers that they've had with some of their young players coming off of entry level. Think of the deal that Sean Couturier is wrapping up in the next year. Think of the deal that Wayne Simmons played on, repeatedly scoring 28, 29 in that 30 goal range. Joel Farabee is going to be right there. And it does get the players some security. He gets to be a UFA at age 28. All those things are great, but I think that this is ultimately going to end up looking really good for Chuck Fletcher and the Flyers.
We got to have it. We might have to have a wager on that 30-70. I might got to take that one for fun. I'll get a little action on that.
Okay, what kind of odds do I get on that though?
Oh, you made the statement. There's no odds.
Ooh.
Well, we'll think about that. We'll talk about it. Ty's the odds guy. We'll think about that for a future pod before the season starts.
Maybe we'll have to get PointsBet involved in that. We'll see.
Yeah,
maybe,
I like it.
Maybe.
I like it.
Speaking of odds, the three leaders on the odds board to win the Norris Trophy next year are up, and they are Cale Makar, Fox, and Hedman. I'm going to go ahead and say we get a stunner of a Norris next year, and neither of those three capture the Norris Trophy. Frank, leader of the Joel Farabee fan club, buying or selling on none of Makar, Fox, or Hedman winning the Norris.
By the way, I want to just point out, you could probably find the clip somewhere, but I did say Joel Farabee was going to make the Flyers before anyone thought that he had a chance to make the Flyers. Wow. I've been, president of the Joel Farabee fan club for a while. And to continue on that, I think Hedman's going to win it. I think he's so good. And now that he's gotten a chance, obviously playing late again, another deep run to the final. Don't know, he had a little work done on his knee. If he's fully healthy, I think he's the best defenseman in the game, hands down. It's just that last year he wasn't healthy and wasn't really close. And I think he would tell you that it wasn't his best season, but still got a ton of votes anyway. I think Victor Hedman is the guy that wins the Norris.
Before we get to Jason, the next three on the odds board, by the way, all at 12-1, according to Bodog, are Charlie McAvoy, Dougie Hamilton, and Quinn Hughes. So, Jason, you buying or selling on Makar, Fox, and Hedman missing on the Norris?
I am selling because I think Cale Makar is going to win, and if it's not him, I would go with Frank. I think it's Hedman. Cale Makar people love him. That's the other thing. Like, he's such an exciting player, and best defenseman doesn't necessarily mean they have the best year, right? Because I agree with Frank. I think Hedman's the best overall D-man in the league. But I think out of those two, one of them is winning this year.
So I was looking back through last year's scoring leaders, and it led me to looking into the year before that as well in the scoring leaders. And last year, based on my kind of rough math, we likely would have had 3 50-goal scorers if it was a full 82-game season. Year before that, likely would have had 3 as well. So I'm going to set the over-under at 3.5. And instead of buy or sell, it will be over or under. Over or under 3.5 50-goal scores next year, Jason?
Oh, I'll go under. I think it was 2012, maybe the last time we had 3. That's like 10 years ago. Like, you think about it, since 2013, the only guys to score 50 is Ovechkin and Leon Draisaitl. That's it. So I don't see more than 3 guys doing it. I'm taking under.
I'm going to take the over. I think we end up with 4.
Ooh.
I'm going to say Matthews.
Yeah.
Ovechkin.
Be great.
McDavid.
DeBrincat
Draisaitl or Pasternak. Pasternak has been right there.
Rantanen was actually right there pace-wise last season as well. And like I said there, when I cut you off, Frank.
Don't trigger Frank. We're not talking pace.
But DeBrincat was also on pace. I know we don't like pace, but we will do a similar question here to wrap up buy or sell. Last year, again, on pace, we had about 7 guys, I think, by my count, who would have hit the 100-point mark. And the year before that, we ended up with a similar number as well. I think about 7 were on pace for it when the season was canceled. So I will say over under 7.5 100-point scores next year. Frank, what'd you take?
I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
And that's amazing saying that we had a guy in Connor McDavid who hit 105 in a 56-game season. Like, it's still mind-blowing number. Draisaitl was obviously close. Matthews will probably be knocking on the door. I'd imagine McKinnon will be. I don't know. Hundreds, it's tough to get to. Like, you got to be awful consistent. I'm going to take the under. I think it's in the 4 to 5 range.
I'm going to take the over. 2019, the last full season, we had 6 guys with 100 points in the National Hockey League, and I think offense is creeping up a little bit. And I actually think because the NHL is going to crack down on on penalties, there's going to be more power plays. Thus, there'll be more guys scoring 100 points. So I'll take over.
And actually,
I'm just looking at your 6 here, though. So, like, so you had 6. I'm looking back at that season, and then McKinnon was at 99, and Johnny Gaudreau was at 99, Stamkos 98, and Barkov 96. So a bunch of those guys, that's 10 right in that wheelhouse. My guess is Crosby probably doesn't get close to 100 again. I don't think Johnny Gaudreau is at 100-point level. You could probably make the argument that Barkov is there, but does Marchand get to 100 again? Does Patrick Kane get to 100? Like, those are all, it's interesting. Like, it's a really good question.
It's nice that I redeemed myself after that joke of a Farabee one. Hey, Frank?
You have totally redeemed yourself.
There we go. That is Buy or Sell, brought to you by Roasty Coffee. Check them out online, roasty.ca.
Hey, I love it, man. As everybody knows, I'm an offensive guy. I'd love to see 50-goal scores. That just seems to be harder now, more than ever. But the 100-point season, man, I think there's going to be a clampdown on power plays, which maybe why there will be the 50-goal guys. I'd love to see Ovechkin. I kind of felt like he got robbed a few times to tie the all-time record and have 9 50-goal campaigns. That would be great. And Austin Matthews kind of be knocking on the door to get his first. He would have had his first if it wasn't for COVID shutting down the 2020 season, but that's unfortunate. It's kind of how it goes, but legit 50. I think if he stays healthy, he definitely is a 50-goal scorer. No question. We got a very special guest on the pod today. Let's get to our big guest, delivered by DoorDash. If you've never had it, what are you waiting for? You can get all sorts of your favorite foods delivered right to your door. And if you've never tried it, no better time to do it right now, because you can use the promo code RUNDOWNDD. That's going to get you 25% off and no delivery charges. That is a sick deal. So check it out at DoorDash.
Our next guest was one of the big headlines of the hockey world last week, joining the Cincinnati Cyclones as the first and only Black head coach in North America this season in professional hockey. Jason Payne from the ECHL Cincinnati Cyclones joins the DFO Rundown. Jason, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing great. It's been a great week so far, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead.
Huge news for the sport and for you, of course, as well, and your family. Just take us through what this last week has been like with the announcement and everything that's come since.
Well, when I was told that I was given the position, obviously there's a little bit of excitement from all the work that I've put in my career for this. And then just knowing that what the possibilities lie ahead. First of all, obviously for being one of the only coaches in North America, but, just the work I put in and just to know what's ahead with the media press, the, people coming at you, wanting to interviews. And so it's humbling. It's exciting. I enjoy it. And I'm just very thankful for it.
So talk to us about your road to this point. Every hockey guy you come across, you got to look at the Hockey DP page or the Elite Prospects page. And I'm looking here, Jason, was there a league in North America that you didn't play in along the way, or coach in, or stop in some way?
Well, I had to take stops in a lot of them just to see if I liked it or not. And to see if they liked me. So, it was fun. It was a lot of adventures. I enjoyed it. Just bouncing from the United League to Colonial League, where I started, the old IHL with the Vipers and Fort Wayne was in there at one time, Kalamazoo K-Wings, Las Vegas Thunder. That was a great league back then. To the East Coast League, I played a numerous amount of teams. I was in Dayton, I was in Florida, I was in Arkansas, Wheeling, Reading. I was all over New Orleans. So, I traveled a lot there, and then to the American League, just bounced around, St. John Flames, Worcester Ice Cats, Cincinnati Mighty Ducks, call up to the Carolina Monarchs, where I played with a good friend of yours, Kevin Weeks, who's a great friend of mine. So it was a lot of adventures, met a lot of people, but, established a lot of trusting and great relationships.
So Jason, when you bounce around and you play in a lot of different leagues for a lot of different teams, I'm sure you had a lot of different coaches as well. Were you? I'm always intrigued by certain guys. Some players never think about coaching, while others they plan for it kind of 5 years before they're done playing. They're taking notes. Certain coaches we've had on, like, they collected notebooks when they played of all the different systems because they thought that was something they wanted to do. Were you the guy with an eye on coaching at all times, or is it something that just kind of fell in your lap, once you were done playing?
I mean, that's a good question, but for me, the style of hockey I played, a lot of it was spent on the bench. So you got to watch the game and understand it and listen to what the coaches are saying. And mind you, the game has changed so much since when I played, but, I think the whole thing for me was the development. You want to keep developing. And as the game went on and progressed, you had to keep evolving with the game. You couldn't be just the enforcer anymore. You couldn't be just that guy. You had to be able to play the game. You had to be able to do the things that keep you in the game. So, I had to continuously evolve my skills and continue to develop. So that became something that a passion for me. And when I got back from playing hockey and I decided to shut it down, I said, you know what? I opened my hockey school where I started training young hockey players myself. And then I started getting into coaching as well too, because it was another avenue of training players to be hockey players, but developing them the real way to play hockey, and not just, with those minor hockey ways that, do it this way, do it that way. So then when they get to the next level of junior or is it pro, they're lost because they don't understand the real concepts of how the game is played at the next level. So again, it was about that development philosophy that really got me intrigued in it. And I really wanted to keep giving back to the young players that were coming up. So it was definitely a journey, but I enjoyed it.
You mentioned how the game has changed a lot since you played. It's extremely different, especially in the minors. Like back when you played in the minor pros, man, it was, I'm not sure if you've seen the documentary or not, but Crime and Penalties, like it was crazy at times in different leagues of how many real tough guys there were, and just, so many guys literally fighting to try to make their way to the National Hockey League. Now it's very different. There's very limited fighting in the NHL, and obviously it's got a trickle down effect. There's much less in the minors. So coaching the game, because you played that role, there's still tough guys and intimidation in the game, but what's your strength as a coach? What have you learned, Jace? Because a lot of times some people say, wow, geez, he didn't score a lot, so he can't teach offense. I don't really agree with that. So how have you evolved, and what have you learned as a coach that you feel you're better now as a coach than when you started, regardless of the role you played?
Well, from when I played, listen, you talk about the crime and punishment, like a lot of those guys are guys that I went to war with, and I'm familiar with a lot of them, but yes, the game has definitely changed. And for me, what I like to bring to this game is you got to change it. It's about perseverance. It's about dedication, commitment, but it's about getting to know the player. You have to be able to relate to the players of today's game. So it's not like back in the day where you can just tell somebody, go do this, and they're expected to understand what they're supposed to do. You have to give them the whys. They need to know why. There's a process to everything, and they need to know why and what the process is about. And it's about relating to the players. Today's players are different. They're wired differently. They need to know things. They're the internet age where they can look at their phone or look at their iPad and get any answers they want. We want to understand the players so we can understand them as a person, get to know them as a person. Then we can help understand them as a player and help develop them as a player. So that is what I like to bring. And I work hard for my players. I want them to work hard for me. The same thing that like Rod Brindamore does. He's out there, he's in the gym, he's training every morning with his players, he's getting on the ice, he's skating hard. That's how I am. I'm in the gym. I tell my players, you want to work out? I'm working out too. See if you can lift more than me. We're on the ice. Okay, see if you can shoot harder than me. I'm skating up. Whatever you do, I'm not going to ask my players to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do. So I want them to go there, and I want them to leave it on the ice and work as hard as they can, because the harder they work for me, they'll know that I'm working tenfold even harder for them.
I love that you see the passion that brings out, from a guy like Rod Brindamore and his players as well. Wanted to ask you again about your path. It's been 12 years since you hung up your skates. And again, taking a look at the Hockey DB page, you've had a few different roles and jobs: skills coach, assistant coach, skating coach, all sorts of different things, junior leagues throughout Ontario, OHL. And then you end up in Cincinnati a couple years back with Matt Thomas. How did you get there? And what was it like along the way over these last 11 years, sort of scrapping and getting by with lots of different roles and opportunities?
You said it, scrapping and getting by. It's not an easy road. When I was done playing, you get around, you got to establish relationships, you meet people, you work different roles, learn the game more. I went back to the grassroots to just get a real idea and a handle of what today's players are like, and teaching and developing them. And it builds you up. You go to the OHL, you go to different junior roles. I was a GM, I was an assistant coach, I was a head coach, I was a scout, I was a skills coach. You do all the jobs, because I think in this world of hockey, if you know all the jobs, I mean, not necessarily have to master them, but if you want to understand the real world of hockey, you got to know what every job pretty much requires and it entails. So if you do, then you're a little bit more educated when it comes time to speak to whoever it is, if it's GMs, players, parents, scouts, agents, because you can talk to them in their language. So, I wouldn't trade in for the world, and it's developed me and helped me push me to where I am today. And, in regards to my job here, it's funny how it happened, but again, I wanted to make it to the next level. I was pushing and doors were closing on me, and you wonder why, you wonder what's happening. What am I doing wrong? Do I got to keep pushing? And Matt Thomas is an old friend of mine we played hockey together growing up in AAA. And we then played together in junior hockey a little bit with a very brief time with St. Mike's Buzzers. And he went on to RITs to college, and I went on to play pro. But we've always stayed in touch. And then when he went into coaching, and as I was coaching in the junior level, I would help him with recruiting and talking to people, anybody he was interested in to recruit to his school. So we always stayed in touch. And again, we're in the people business. It's a relationship. It's all about relationships. And, he got his lucky break where, he was able to find a job now with Cincinnati. He needed somebody in his eyes, were qualified, that would work hard and was dedicated. And he called me, and my opportunity was presented to me, and he had to run it through Buffalo Sabres, and everything was approved. They approved it, and we went from there. We went on that year to I think we were in the All-Star game, finished first place overall in the league, and we've pretty much been coaching our butts off and trying to develop our players here. But now perseverance shows itself. Matt's been doing it for 17 years. He's been in the NCAA. He's been in the ECHL. He's won Coach of the Year. He's won championships here, and he's never gotten an opportunity. And now he's gotten that opportunity in the American League with Providence Bruins with Ryan Mougenel, who's another friend of ours, who's an old teammate of mine as well too. And you know what? It's well deserved. And if there's anybody who's more deserving of it, it's him. And for him to give me my first shot here, cutting my teeth at coaching at the pro level, I'm forever grateful and thankful. And I'm a hope. He tells me all the time, you didn't let me down, because I knew when you came in that you would work. And it's putting yourselves in the right position at the right time. And fortunate for me, the cards and the chips fell as they may, and here I am today.
So tell me about Jason, the environment there in Cincinnati, because as you're working your butt off, as you said, you've got Kristen Ropp, the general manager there, who's the only female GM in men's professional hockey. So do you feel like, with the opportunities that you're getting there, it's just a fresh set of eyes, a different outlook, approach, someone maybe willing to do things a little bit outside the box and different. And obviously she saw you and got a chance to work with you up close and personal.
Oh yeah. Kristen Ropp's amazing. And, for the record, I think she's a trailblazer when it comes to that. There's more GMs that are, coming around. There's in our league, Kalamazoo K-Wings just announced their female GM. So, kudos to them. And, it's groundbreaking, and I love to see it. And it's opening up the doors to, the diversity of it. And for Kristen, it's not about, men or women. She just wants the best people. And for her to work for Kristen is unbelievable. I couldn't ask for anything more. Such a professional environment, such a great environment, such a welcome, warm environment, a family environment. And when you have that, it's welcoming. You have the players, they want to come to the arena. Players want to come here. They want to come play here. We want to come to the arena every day because it's such a great environment to work in. So, I'm so thankful for Kristen that she's the kind of person that she is. And, overall, the whole organization, our owner, Ray Harris, is one of the best owners in the league in my eyes. And I'm very thankful that, they've given me the opportunity to coach this team.
Jason, Frank alluded to it off the top. Being a black head coach right now in hockey and in pro hockey in North America is pretty rare. So, congratulations for that. At the same time, have you experienced, is it a challenge at all? Because, we know that racism has diminished from where it was. We made some progress. We're not remotely close to where we should be as a society. But do you sense that at all? Is it a challenge in a still a predominantly white sport to be a black head coach?
It is definitely a challenge. I mean, there's no ways around it. But I think for myself, the way I view it is you've just got to be a great person. The better person you are, the more opportunity you give yourself for doors to open, and let's break down those barriers. And eventually, when you're that good a person, no one wants to see color. They just want to see how good you are and what in the body of work you can put in. And so don't give anybody an opportunity or anything to have anything that's negative to say about you or blemishes to your record. Just be a good person. Right? We're in a people business. It's an old saying, you got to get the person right before you get the player right. You got to get the person right before you can get the coach right. When you get to know somebody, you get to know the personality, you can relate, then and that only then can you really get to the person that you really want, or the coach or player that you really want.
When you coached and you've been coaching at lower levels, you've talked a lot about, developing players. Did you try to develop human beings at the same time? Is there a potential slight advantage for you because you can talk through because as a white man, I haven't experienced things that black men experience. I just never have, right? I can be as empathetic as I want to it, but I've never had to walk in those shoes. Is there an advantage that to teach maybe the human side of it more to your players to understand? So maybe they're just like, wow, I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, because the experiences you had in your life are going to be different than mine and Frank's.
Well, definitely. I mean, those are those difficult conversations that they talk about having, but it's all about your voice. It's how you relate to players, how you talk to them. There's no woe is me. Listen, this is what life is like. Yeah, it's great, but you know what? It's not great sometimes. It's great the others. But it's not like anything else in life that other people don't go through, maybe in different ways. Mm-hmm. Persevere, push through it, be a good person, battle through it. And you know what? When people relate to you and they feel that, and they feel the empathy for you, and they feel for you because they relate to what you're going through, only then can you break down those walls. Only then can you start to relate and people can start to understand. And that's all communication is key. And that's all I can really tell you. Communication is key. And just have to communicate, find a way to have those difficult conversations. But when you establish and build those relationships, those difficult communications become a lot easier.
Well said. You mentioned finding your voice, and I'm always curious, as someone that's now going to get a crack for the first time in pro hockey, having been an assistant, how different will your voice be as a head coach versus an assistant?
There's no change. There's no change. The only thing that's going to change is the title. You want to be the same way. You're going to relate to the players. They're going to work hard for you. There's the problem where people get the misconception is when they change roles, they got to change their attitude. Everyone's like, oh, you got to be the good cop, bad cop. Well, no, not really. Not really. Just be the honest cop. Be true. Tell the truth. Be genuine, and relate to the players. Get them to work for you. I don't need to impress the players, and I don't need to, if they say it, play that role to the players, right? I got to intimidate them. I don't need to intimidate them. The body of work, my personality speaks for itself. And for that, the players will relate and the players will want to work for it. That's it. And and you keep it as simple as that. When you start to pull emotions differently into your roles, that if things have changed, that's when they say, oh, that person, he's changed. Oh, he's changed. That's not the same guy I knew before. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy, especially in today's game. It's not like back in the day where, like when I played and they're telling, Painter, get out there, go do some work. Like, oh, okay. All right, like go get him. Like that's it. No, we need to talk to the players. We need to understand the game has changed. Players have changed. Society has changed. So as it's ever evolving, so must we.
I was wondering how much, Jason, the NHL Coaches Association and their BIPOC program helped you. I was reading in Emily Kaplan's story on ESPN.com, what she did a great job on, and I know you conversed with her as well, just about how that might have opened up some doors with you and some opportunities to make new connections. Like it's nice to, I always say hockey's, the world's smallest $5 million industry. And, it's just even funny. You just mentioning Matt Thomas and sort of his path. And like, I was like, oh, well, I talked to Matt Thomas before when I was doing a story on some of the kids from Humboldt that he was recruiting when he was coaching in Alaska. And then he ends up in Cincinnati, and then you're with him. And it's like everything, spirals, and we all kind of live in our own little world here. And then the connection you mentioned off the top, and I got introduced to you earlier in the week with Weeksy, and it's nice to have your own little bubble, but it's also nice to, get connected to meet new people. And I was wondering how much that helped you.
Well, listen, the BIPOC committee, NHL Coaches Association, I'm thankful for what they do. They put this organization together, the BIPOC committee together. So it gives everyone a chance to meet and network. That's the important part for there, because a lot of guys have trouble networking. And when you're able to put this together, you're able to meet and network with different coaches of color, different coaches of race, whatever, female, male, it doesn't matter. But you put the platform out there so we're all able to connect, talk. And if you want to meet, exchange numbers, talk hockey, philosophies, but it allows you the ability to do that. And then they extend it to the NHL coaches and the other American League coaches, where they bring them in as guest coaches so that, they can talk. So, because there's always been that disconnect where they haven't been able to, like you said, again, have that voice where they were able to connect with the coaches at the higher level. So they're providing that opportunity to do that. And what I think they're doing a great job with that. And I think it's going to be forever growing.
So last one from me, Jason Gregor, before you hop back in, so I was reading an Emily story you were invited to speak.
Yes.
Where did you speak, when, and who was it to, and how do you feel like that helped you?
Well, I did it for the National Coaches Association, the NHLCA coaching committee, the seminar symposium. So she asked me to do a presentation. I was like, okay, sure. And we tried to figure out what I should do it on. And I was like, a lot of guys do stuff on systems and everything, but we don't want to know about systems. So it's that, let me do something that's going to be a little bit closer to my heart, closer to what I'm about. And I did one on developing players for a career in pro hockey. And it starts from the kids in minor hockey all the way to pro, about the development path they take, the misconceptions, the commitment to their path, trusting in the process, trusting in the development. And it was a lot of information. I went through a lot of stuff that we do in our league and stuff that we do in our team for our players to develop them. And I got a lot of great feedback from that, from a lot of coaches at higher levels. And I think it really made an impact. And I'm happy I did it, because it also challenged me, challenged my growth and allowed me to do something that I've never done before, and allowed me to expand in my coaching. And from there, things expanded, and I was able to talk to many coaches and GMs at higher levels. So, very thankful for that. And it was a lot of work. And when it was all said and done, I was very thankful. I was very relieved. Went to sleep a couple times at night, still dreaming like I was doing my presentation. Oh, what was that? Because you want it to be perfect. You want it to be perfect. You think you're on a main stage or platform that everybody's watching, so you want it to be perfect. And I put a lot of my pressure on myself, and I challenged myself to do that. So it was fun. It was exciting. And, I'm very thankful to have gone through it, because it just made me a better person.
Now, Jason, as I was preparing for this interview, I was looking up a lot of your stats, and as I'm reading the numbers and I'm looking where you're playing all these different leagues, and I'm just like, man, this guy's like a grinder. Like you clearly must loved hockey. Like, you had a tough job, number one, the tough role that not a lot of people like to do at the end of the day. And you're not doing it at the NHL when guys are, getting paid big money to at least, compensate for it. Where did that passion, like what kept you driving? Because a lot of players, they'll bounce around the minors for 2, 3, 4, 5 years maybe. And then they're like, okay, you know what? I'm going, what kept you in it for so many years?
I guess it's the passion. I love the game, and it became a lifestyle for me. Not, you can't just like this game. And I always tell the young players, this game, if you want to play it, is going to give you every opportunity to quit. It's going to give you every opportunity to tell you, hey, pack up, get out of here. It's done. You can have a bad game, a bad year, a bad, whatever it is. That's how you beat it. But if you love the game and it's a lifestyle, you find ways to push through it. You find ways to motivate and fuel your hunger. And you push through it. And again, you never know what's the next step for you unless you push through the first hurdle, the first barrier. And there was one time, I think I was traded 3 times in 1 year. And I was looking, and I sat back and I was like, what's going on right now? Like, what am I doing? Like, is this for me? Like what's happening right now? And I went through that whole summer and I continued to train. And, you know, when you surround yourself around people with the same like mindset, it becomes very easy. You very easily be distracted if there's people around you that don't think like you. But if there's people that think like you or have that like mindset of something that you want to achieve or the goals you want to achieve, it's very easy to stay on track and push forward. And, you know, I've had a lot of friends that have done that. And I made a lot of sacrifices. You know, I left home some summers. I went to go train in Boston with Mr. Paul Vincent. You know, and there was other parts of the summer where, you know, Kevin, I would go to Kevin Weeks' house and him and I would just train. Like I'd get up in the morning, I'd go to his house. I'd go for a run, about a 40-minute run, come back, we'd work out. After that's done, I'd have some lunch. I'd then leave. I'd go to the track, go to my track coach down to York University, and I'd run at the track for about 2.5 hours, running sprints. And then after that, I'd go get something to eat again. Then I'd go on the ice again at 7:00 at night or something like that for another 2 hours and skate. You know, and then guess what? Go home, eat, sleep, repeat. And, you know, and a lot of that I did not knowing where I was going to play the following season, but you had to be ready because you don't want the opportunity to come and you're not prepared for it. So, you know, it's just pushing yourself. And when you're seeing the results and you're seeing the goals and you're getting that taste at the next level, meeting people, skating on NHL ice or skating with American League teams, you get that hunger, you get that drive. And you don't get distractions. Don't have distraction, anything distracting. Anything that distracts you, you got to get it out of your life and you got to stay focused. So focus and perseverance. And that's what I try to instill in a lot of my young players when I was coaching them and a lot of the players today.
I love it. Jason, we always like to end our interviews with rapid fire, some fun, short questions. The only rule is you have to answer every question. All right. So,
right, here we go.
Okay. So here we go. First one, very simple. What is Jason Payne, whether it's relaxing after a big win, what is your beverage of choice, alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Non-alcoholic, usually. It'll probably be either water, lemonade, or any kind of juice. I'm not really too much of a pop guy.
Water, lemonade. Okay. Excluding Cincinnati, because I don't want you, of all the minor league teams or leagues you played in, what was the best barn you played in?
Oof. That's a good one. The Cincinnati Gardens was amazing. And I really enjoyed it. I think that's one that really stood out for me. And another one that stood out for me was in the East Coast League in Florida, the Florida Everblades. The fans, they were unbelievable. So yeah, there was a couple of them, but like I said, I think Cincinnati stood out more because it was like an old Maple Leaf Gardens.
Okay. Of all the teams you played on, did you have any unique nicknames? Because fans, they love guys who played your role. Did they ever have any unique nicknames that you had that didn't last?
There's none that didn't last. Actually, another great arena I played in Flint, Michigan. At that time it was called the IMA, and they're amazing blue collar fans there. And the team was called the Flint Generals, and they used to call me Major Payne. Oh. When I was in the OHL with London, we played the Ice House. That was off the 401 there, before they moved to Budweiser Gardens. And the fans there used to call that "Welcome to the Ice House of Pain." So. So there's the House of Pain, Major Payne. Those are there's a couple nicknames there.
So now, do your players, is it Coach Payne? If they call you Major Payne, is that all right?
Oh, they can call me that all they want. Payne or House, whatever they want to call me. So just don't call me late.
Okay, that's fair. Well, when you were sprinting and you're doing all that sprint training, what was your fastest 100-meter?
Oof. I honestly couldn't tell you because by the time we were done, I just wanted to go run down and lay down because my legs were burning. So I know when I was playing football, I was running, I ran my 40 and 4.7 was my fastest.
What position did you play in football?
Everything. In high school, I played everything. I was a linebacker. I was running back, tailback. I did long snap. I did punt, whatever was required. But my main positions, I guess you want to put, were running back and linebacker.
So why hockey over football?
It's a sport, a Canadian sport, and I loved it. I just fell in love with it. And again, when you surround yourself around friends that are in that sport, like I said, like Frank, Kevin. With Kevin, he was a star from when he was a young kid, and just being beside him the whole time, you just love it. And I'll be honest with you, between you and I love the equipment.
Okay, I like that. Now, you mentioned how you want to get in the gym with your guys if they're working out. So let's say all of a sudden you're going to go to the track, and if you get to pick, what race distance are you most comfortable in that you could fare the best against your players?
Anything short, 100-meter, let's go.
100 meters. So you're not a distance guy. Could you run a 50? Like, I'm sure you could, but how comfortable could you run a 1500 meter?
I don't know. I'll ask my legs when I'm done. That's a spicy one, boys. I don't know if I could do those 15s already. Just got to pace yourself.
I have a better chance getting pregnant than running a 1500. So.
And since you're a track guy, were you a field guy? And if so, what did you do?
If anything, it was more like long jump or shot put. Those were the sports I would do for that. So, but other than that, I mean, those are just things you do in high school, right? So I was more busy, like with the track, it was more about preparing yourself for either for football or for hockey. So that's where all the running came in. So
now in your spare time, what does Major Payne like to do?
A lot, music. I like listening to music. It's great. But, a lot of my fascination besides sports, football, hockey, and baseball, I'm a sports guy. Other than that, one of my other passions are motorcycles.
Ooh, like Harleys or crotch rockets?
Crotch rockets. I've had quite a few in my day. I still have one, but I don't think I've been on it in the last 3 to 4 years.
Now, why is that?
You know what? Honestly, with where I see myself trying to go, and I know with all the stuff going on the roads out there today, I don't want to put myself at risk. I don't want to put my family at risk, and I don't want to jeopardize all the work that I've put in for all this time just because I want to go for a quick 20 minutes of pleasure. And then somebody decides that they're going to do something wrong on the road, and it's a different ballgame. So, I mean, I still have my bike. I love it to death. It's at home. I'll wipe it down every day. I'll look at it. Great, awesome. All right, good night, and I walk away.
Just a shiny toy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jason. We really appreciate it, and continued success.
Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it, and keep up the great work, guys. I love it.
Yeah, Jason, we're looking forward to watching you climb, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing you at the next level real soon.
I really appreciate it, guys, and we're going to work hard for it.
Jason Payne, Frank, good guess, man. Great get.
Awesome guy. Really looking forward to seeing him climb through the ranks. You can tell when you love it that much that you're going to go through whatever it is, 12, 14 different leagues and however many teams, and then start at the very bottom as a skills coach or as a skating coach in junior hockey that's below major junior and continue to work your way up. He's not going to stop at anything. He's not going to be told no. And those are the types of guys you want to have around and you can learn from. You can hear it in his voice, the commitment, the passion. And the best part is it's all genuine. There's no fluff. He's literally lived what all these guys are going through. And so I think he gets it. And man, you could see it and feel it. I was getting excited just listening to it.
Oh, dude, when he was talking I think it was his last answer before Rapid Fire, he's like, geez, give me some skates or let's go play. This guy's fired right up. Like you can tell he's going to be a player coach, a motivating coach, which is such a major part of coaching nowadays more than anything else. So I really look forward to seeing where he's going. And
one thing too, I wanted to point out, and I thought it was a great lesson for everyone else listening, his preparation for that speech with the NHL Coaches Association and what he put into it, losing sleep, making sure his topic was on point. Why talk about systems when these guys do this for a living every day? Find another way to break through. You just never know. You never know who's listening. You never know who's watching, and you never know what opportunity or door that might open. So I think it's, always try your best to impress. And I think that's something to take away for every single person listening, hockey fan or not. Jason Payne, what a great message.
No, it's true. And another guy who did that was Rocky Thompson at the draft. They always have that big annual coaches clinic, and this one, I think it's a similar one. Usually it's held before the draft, and he asked to speak, and he did a present. Now, people that remember Rocky Thompson, he had the long hair. He kind of thought he was a
one of the scariest dudes ever.
And he came in and his power play presentation, like I remember talking to other coaches, Todd McClellan at the time, and they were just like, oh my God. And he got hired virtually right on the spot. Warren Reichel and Bob Bugner came out of that meeting. They were looking for a coach. They hired him with the Windsor Spitfires, like literally a month later.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. So always be prepared. You get one chance, and good for Jason. Doesn't mean you don't get hired first right away, but people remember that guy in that presentation. Now, if he has success, they'll be like, "Oh, this guy knows what he's talking about." So definitely look forward to that. It was awesome. Coming up later this week on episode 61, Mike Rupp's going to join us, talk about his NHL career, also his role with the big story, Frank, that you had last Friday. This time we're going to have Mike Rupp, the player, talk about his NHL, his Stanley Cup, but also his time associated with the hot new documentary, Crime and Penalties. We'll talk of that as well. A lot of his friends didn't even know about it. So I talked to Rupper.
I forgot he played there. When you mentioned we were going to have him on, I was like, okay, why? Like, not to say like, why wouldn't you have Mike Rupp on? But then you said he played in Danbury, and then I actually got a chance to watch the doc. Awesome.
Oh, dude, the stories that he has that didn't make the doc are awesome. Like some really funny stuff. So look forward to that on Friday.